Serious, gay people who have, or know people who have, suffered through conversion therapy. What's your story? I had an ex that had to go through the camp. She wouldn't talk about it much, or her family for that matter. All she ever said was that she graduated the camp was straight for 6 months till her mom found out she was lying. Her mom then threatened her with a knife and she ran out of her house at 16 with the clothes on her back. Her best friend's parents adopted her in. Poor thing had severe PTSD from the whole experience. Night terrors, screaming, sweating, crying. Certain things would set her off, like 1,000-yard stare set her off. One night I tried to wake her from a particularly bad night terror and she punched me square in the face. When she woke up she started to cry and apologize. I always felt so sorry for her, and so helpless cause there was nothing I could do other than listen and hold her when she needed it. My cousin, now in his mid-40s, first came out to his parents as a young teen. They freaked out and sent him to conversion therapy camp, which was a terrible experience for him. He kept quiet for a couple years, and by the time he was ready to be more vocal his parents had done a lot of personal growth and became some of the most involved flag parents out there. My uncle is always wearing his pink triangle "I love my gay son" pin. I remember different boyfriends being brought around their house when my cousin was in his early 20s. Then he met his husband and his parents helped fight for the legislature in their area to allow them to marry. They've had I think 4 weddings, though I may be forgetting one at this point as it's been legalized and then repealed and then legalized again in their area. Only one big wedding ceremony and reception where we all came in from out of town after one of the legal ones in the middle. Most were civil procedures at the town hall where they waited in line. With my aunt and uncle who wouldn't miss it for the world and truly love their son-in-law as another of their children. That is incredibly sweet how they came around. It gives me faith that people can change for the better in fantastic ways. My friend's parents found out he was gay when he was like 15-16, and he was subjected to a lot of mistreatment. His parents took him to a psychiatrist, where he was given pills and was also told that the gay behavior is a copycat of someone from society, and he just replicated the lifestyle. His parents physically abused him, embarrassed him publicly. They took his cell phone, forbid him of using social media, and was not allowed to go out, except school of course. He ended up okay, still gay, and with a boyfriend. My parents thought they were helping me. My dad is a pastor, so they got a recommendation to take me to a psychologist in North Carolina who was really just a preacher my dad got connected to. I went to 2 meetings before telling my mom if I went back there again it would kill me. Me and the fam a lot better now. Thank goodness you felt able to stand up to them and they listened to you. One of my close friends told his mom he was gay in early high school. She is very conservative and started having him go to her pray away the gay counselor. He never said anything about it being abusive or obscene, but it made him a homophobe for about 3 years before he found a boyfriend. The happy ending is that his parents have gotten past it and they are all pretty happy. A gay friend of mine never came out to his single dad, but on his birthday, his dad gifted him colorful Disney princess blankets. He says he gave his dad a look, and his dad gave him a look in return, and he still didn't officially come out, but from that day on he knew his dad was on his side. Gay conversion therapy survivor here, though in a softcore way, so I consider myself somewhat lucky. No electrodes, just lifelong psychiatric trauma. I was raised in a Southern Baptist church in Virginia. I realized I was into guys when I was in 5th grade and had a huge crush on a guy in my class. I told my parents I was gay 2 years later, after having given up on trying to wish myself straight after 2 years fighting against my own desires and crying myself to sleep many nights. My mom quietly contacted someone at the church and he referred my parents to a Christian counselor about 30 minutes from my house. The first appointment was bizarre. He'd only refer to me being gay as my ailment or homosexuality. To this day I hate the word homosexuality because I associate it with sitting in the alleged counselor's office and being told to my face how I was an aberration, a mistake. But he and God could fix me if I just thought about it hard enough. There were a lot of graphs about human desire and God being the source of that desire if I just let his desire in. I went for about 4 months, until my female best friend hatched a plan to become my beard so I could get out of going. It worked and she is one of my closest friends to this day. After every session I'd get a Starbucks Frappuccino with my mom. I'd be tearful and she would do everything she could to cheer me up, including bringing a second Frappuccino to school for me the next day. I would cry because I felt I disappointed her by being gay, that I had done something to make myself that way and ruined her life as well as mine. See, that's the dark thing about psychiatric conversion therapy. It plays on your darkest doubts, fears and shames. It breaks your soul down and tries to recreate you as a better, more heterosexual person. I stopped going at 15. At 17 I came out again and stayed out, refusing to go to counseling again. I don't harbor any ill will. My parents were doing what they thought was best for me. Though it's created a beast of internalized homophobia and self-doubt I'll fight for a long time to come. I still smile when I drink Frappuccinos. My relationship with my parents is still problematic because I don't blame them. But it's hard to move past feeling hurt by them or even still feeling like I'm a disappointment because I'm gay. I'm getting married in July. His name is Sam and he is the light of my life. I've invited them and even though it's been almost 10 years since I came out, I still don't know if they'll come. I don't doubt their attendance because of anything they've said, but because the words of the counselor all those years ago. He said, "You think your parents will ever embrace your homosexuality? They won't. They'll never attend a homosexual wedding. They'll never be happy when you engage in a homosexual relationship. It will ruin them. And you. It messes you up. It's not a good thing." This whole thread is just tearing me up. I've been raised Mormon and taught for most of my life that being gay is a sin. I would struggle so hard with the neglect of my parents if I was gay. I'm so sorry for you. This experience sounds plain awful. This is second hand, but the guys who told me about it aren't big on lying. Especially this one instance. A couple guys I'm very good friends with told me a story about a guy they knew growing up. It was a good friend of theirs, and they knew he was gay. We all don't really live in a super religious area, but there's still a good deal of religious crazies. So the parents find out he's gay and send him away to some religious anti-gay camp. A few months go by and my friend gets a call. This was at the dawn of people having cell phones when they were just becoming normal. So he remembered at least someone's phone number. He says he stole someone's cell phone and he's in the next state on the border. This is what they told me. He said it was like prison. They wouldn't let them have any contact with anyone. They would make them constantly read Bible verses. As far as I'm aware, there was no physical abuse, as long as you didn't try to escape. These were minors, so they don't have rights like anyone over the age of 18, US. Anyways, my friends ended up going to the camp and the dude hopped the wall and never looked back. I guess he still had the phone and they called and he just made a mad dash. So they scooped him up and took off. My one friend told his parents about what happened and they let him stay there until he was 18. And then the dude went off and lived his own life. No idea what happened after that. I just remembered it sounded horrifying. My parents left a flyer for one of those camps on our kitchen counter with the mail. I put it through the shredder, and thankfully they never said anything more about it. I still had to go to therapy, but the camp sounded horrifying. One of my closest friends is currently trying to pray the gay away and my heart absolutely breaks for him. I remember before he got into this a couple of years back, he seemed quite comfortable with his sexual orientation despite coming from a family who never fully accepted it and having been harassed as a kid. He went through a time of trying to figure himself out during medical school and decided to try and get right with God or something to that effect and adopted some extremely negative beliefs about homosexuality. He sometimes sends me material pertaining to creationism and evidence of homosexual immorality. Since I do not share his ideology and have made that clear, I think he's trying to convince himself more than anything. I can't even imagine what it must be like to have such inner turmoil, and it pains me that anyone has to go through this kind of ordeal, and worse. My husband went to a camp that was meant to cure LGBT teens. My husband says that they would wake the kids up in the morning and each teen would have a one-on-one session with the leader. He would try to make them avoid their temptation during the session. He would show them nude photos of men, women. Some of it was of gay sex. They would watch group videos on the dangers of being gay and the risk factor associated with it, such as contracting HIV, not being able to have children, being kicked out of your house, not having your church accept you. They would have their graduates of the camp come in and talk about avoiding temptation and how you can learn to live the way that God intended. They also had the teens walk out in the community with signs that said, "I am gay. Help me avoid temptation." It was part of the process because you apparently need the community's support in order to help you become straight. My husband didn't complete the program and was kicked out of his house by his parents. Fortunately, he had an aunt that was more than willing to allow him to live with her family. It worked out well in the end, but as far as my husband knows, the camp is still ongoing. They just opened it to more kids with different issues, but LGBT youth still attend. It is pretty sad honestly, and we do in fact have children and neither of us spontaneously contracted HIV, so I hope they update that video. They would watch group videos on the dangers of being gay and the risk factor associated with it, such as contracting HIV, not being able to have children, being kicked out of your house, not having your church accept you. We have to punish and ostracize you for being gay, otherwise you might be punished and ostracized for being gay. Intake therapist here at a community mental health agency. I see about 4 new clients every day and have heard more than one story about gay conversion therapy, and it's never been referenced with a positive or even neutral light, and it's usually a factor in why they're coming back in for service. At my mother's insistence, I went to one session where I met with a counselor who spent a good 45 minutes explaining to me that only prayer would save me from the AIDS I had contracted. I was 17 and had never had sex with anyone. My mom still thinks I have AIDS. She doesn't answer when I call. The problem with things like conversion therapy, even if there is a shred of legitimacy, your family is supposed to be there for you no matter what. When someone comes out early on to their parents, if they receive anything but positive acceptance, that trust is broken, and it's pretty freaking tough to repair that kind of trust. If anyone wants to know more about this stuff, they really need to read Boy Erased by Gerard Conley. Honestly, this book should be required reading in schools. The best example I can offer is this. A gay tuba player I know went through conversion therapy. He said it was like being told he should play the violin instead of the tuba. He tried it, didn't work. Now he's happily married to his gay partner and proud of it. I teach in a university in a psychology department, and I know a couple of my older colleagues used to do gay conversion therapy. The thing is, back in the day, this was mainstream therapy. Many men voluntarily entered therapy to cure themselves. When say voluntarily, I know that they were bowing to pressure to maintain a socially normative behavior, so there was an element of coercion involved. Nonetheless, they admitted themselves and paid for their own therapies. They would try to counter-condition sexual urges to homosexual stimuli using electric shocks. They would measure small changes in penile erections to verify the loss of prepotent arousal while doing so. These therapies were incredibly unsuccessful. I should add that my colleagues, who are open and liberal-minded professionals, completely regret they ever participated in these therapies, and are very glad that homosexuality has been depathologized. Oh hey, an credit I can participate in. Well, it was my senior year of high school when everything happened. I knew I was bi ever since I was 13. My senior year of high school, I finally came to the realization that I was 100% gay. It sucked, because I wanted to marry a woman and be normal. I was talking to a really cute, smart, funny guy from a different school. It was just a city over, so about 10 minutes away. My parents had been suspicious for years, so they decided to read my texts and saw the conversations we had with each other. They confronted me about it when I got home from work one night, and they basically told me I was going to heck. A couple weeks later, they took me to Christian counseling, and I thought it was total balls. And I even told the counselor that, after my 3rd visit, I decided to try and change so I wouldn't go to heck. So I told her that and prayed, and that was that. Trying to change who I was inside only lasted a couple months. I realized I was a flaming gay boy, and that's how I'm gonna be until the day I die. Fast forward to today, they still don't have proof that I'm gay, but they have their suspicions. They constantly question where I'm at, ask me if I'd ever go back to that lifestyle, etc. It's hard to even date anyone at all right now because of how overprotective they've become over the years ever since they found out I was gay at one point. I graduate college in a year and a half and then I'm getting out of here. Don't ever let anyone try and tell you that you can't love who you want to. If you ever even try to make yourself believe that, you'll never truly be happy. Now that I've accepted who I am, I'm truly happy and I wouldn't change a thing. Flame on, ladies and gents. They're paranoid because they know it's a complete load of bulls and you can't pray away the gay. You do you, my friend. My grandma's cousin. His name is Gordy. He is in his mid-60s. I don't know exactly how old he is. He lived through the time when being gay at all was a horrible thing. And when he was somewhere around age 18-21, he actually shipped himself off to become a monk. To fix himself. He hadn't told any of his family members that he was gay. He would later end up coming back, non-converted, and go to college. His roommate was the first person he came out to ever. His roommate didn't say a single word to him and instantly left. 30-40 years later, his old roommate manages to contact Gordy, apologizing to him, telling him he was so afraid because he was gay too, and he couldn't come to grips with it until in his 50s-60s. Point of my story being not quite conversion camp. Sometimes the worst hells are the ones you put yourself through. Gordy is an amazing guy, and I'm so happy to have him as a family member. To live in a time where you feel so convinced by your surroundings that you need to fix yourself is as much a conversion camp as I could think of. Well, at a very young age my dad got a counselor to talk to me about being a man, because I played with a baby doll as a child. It didn't last long, but it fricked me up pretty bad. Took me 11 years to come out of the closet, and my dad didn't know for 5 more. Had a trans friend who was almost forced into it by a grandparent. She actually found out she lived within a mile of a conversion therapy office of some sort. She did some research to find out what actually would happen to her and I helped her get through that emotional horror. Her fear of going was so incredible I can't imagine what would happen if she actually went. I have a friend in a similar situation. I think they're safe though. I was wondering why all these comments were really tame, but then I realized it's because the people who have gone through the worst of the worst are either still in the camps, they'll hold you till you're 18 or sometimes longer, yes it's illegal, or have committed suicide. A friend of mine from college told me that his parents took him to conversion therapy. He claimed that it worked. He said he still struggled with it but that God had made his sinful desires bearable. 4 years ago, he committed suicide. I will be haunted by that until the day I die. I didn't go to a camp. It was more a weekly outpatient therapy thing, but definitely a counselor meant to convert gay kids. I was pretty fricked up at that point due to some unrelated issues, and I remember it really screwed with me for a long time when this counselor eventually suggested that some incurable gay people were just kind of destined to kill themselves to right nature's mistake or whatever. Not full on conversion therapy here, but here's my story. Parents found gay PI printed out when I was young. Told me it was wrong and a sin. Told me it was the devil telling me to love men. Basically told this throughout my childhood so I get a girlfriend to hide, even from myself, as I felt that it's my fault I feel this way so I have to lie to myself. So I lied to myself for years with that GF. I told myself that this is the way it should be. Even though I felt no attraction to her, I inflicted minor self-harm to myself, thought about running away or killing myself. Flash forward a bit to these Christian retreats my parents were a part of. They were part of the worship team. I felt like I had to go. I was taught that my gay thoughts were a form of misandry and that I needed to pray the thoughts away. I went to multiple ones of these and participated in everything there, asking Jesus to take away the thoughts, but they never went away. Spiraled into depression. Ended up coming clean to my GF after finding 2 others in my HS that were openly gay, and this helped normalize this for me. Finally got to college and away from this situation and I was free to explore a bit more. Realized that being gay is normal. Came out to my family and mom cried and dad was disappointed that I still felt this way. Family more or less accepts it now. Still live at home sadly. I'm finally in therapy but I can't afford to go more than once every couple months. Gonna try to start going more. This whole deal made a lot of self-hate grow and I developed some bad fetishes that I'm working to get out of. Had only one boyfriend so far and I've not dated in 7 years. Not a happy ending yet but I'm trying to turn it into one. Creepy straight therapist said I was at a crossroads in my life and that I could choose to be gay or choose to be straight. It was a mind-blowing concept for me. I was 16. Cause I felt like I had been cursed with it since birth. He had me spend 9 months of creepy therapy trying to force me to masturbate to a different part of the female body each day, whether it be a pic of their ear, nose, eye, and force myself to ejaculate, and said my brain would basically be brainwashed into thinking I was attracted to women. I legit tried it, but it left me so frustrated and didn't work, and in the end helped me realize that he had no idea and never would to know what it was like to be gay, and that it couldn't be changed and I was just who I was. So I came to accept it myself, but kept the charade up cause I didn't want to admit failure. The insurance ran out, at which point he claimed I was magically cured, lol. I know this comment will be deleted because it isn't an answer, but I am truly sorry for anyone that had to go through this crap. I would not be able to handle it. I don't get why people can't just accept others for who you are. Not exactly what OP is looking for, but after I was outed to my parents in high school, they started looking into a Catholic group called Courage. They made me talk to their parish priest on one occasion. The priest seemed a bit out of his depth and told me that I'd just grow out of it. It wasn't until after I turned 18 that my parents tried to convince me to attend Courage meetings, which as far as I can tell are like Alcoholics Anonymous meetings but with homosexuality as the problem. Thank goodness I was able to avoid going. I have a pretty strained relationship with my parents now, and I suspect that they go to the Catholic Church's ex-gay group for parents, which is called Encourage. When I visit home I sometimes see mailers from the diocese with the group's information on them, and they're filled with all sorts of anti-LGBT tripe. Really hateful organization, in my opinion. My husband went through it when he was 17. We are mid-40s. He wound up trying to kill himself. He refused to continue, so his parents kicked him out. Refused to provide him financial info for his college applications. So he wound up on a roller coaster of poverty and homelessness while trying to get through college, which he did. Strangely enough, as they approached old age, he asked that we move back to his home state, Utah. Shocker. So he could forgive and reconcile with them before they died. His mom died last year and we let her and the dad pretend they were a-okay parents. I don't get it, but my husband says forgiveness is a gift he gave himself. My husband says forgiveness is a gift he gave himself. This is a truth few ever have the misfortune of knowing. He was quiet. The only time he talked about it was for a freshman orientation, and I quote, "I was sent to a conversion camp when I was 15. I survived, and I pretended. But now I'm here and I'm still gay, and I'm still proud." His voice cracked and wavered a bit, starting from "I'm still gay." Not me, my older brother. Our father is a Southern Baptist pastor. His eldest son being gay was the absolute worst thing. He came out to our parents when he was about 15, and was sent to a conversion camp in Mexico when he was 16. He was there until he aged out. He turned 18 and said, "Frick this crap, I'm out." From what he has told me, which is very little, they try to break you down to the smallest possible thing. They make you loathe any and every part of yourself, and make all of those parts only seem to exist because you are gay. He says he saw a lot of kids commit suicide, mostly between 12-16. It's been nearly a decade, and he still is trying to get past what he saw. He says it never worked. He knew he was still gayer than a bag of gay hamsters, but there was some serious emotional damage done. He hasn't talked to my dad since he got out. He contacted my mom when she left my dad, but their relationship is still strained. He's still single, but never has had any interest in getting married. He is a foster parent and spends almost all of his time working for his local PFLAG. Gayer than a bag of gay hamsters. I'm sorry, I know this is serious crap, but I've never heard it described so poetically and rodently. I have a lot of friends who grew up in the Hasidic community and went to ex-gay camp together, some of them for years. I think Jewish conversion therapy is a bit less hostile than the Christian version, since the focus is on the importance of having children and a traditional family, not hating yourself for sinful thoughts. Not supporting it at all, just saying I think they are less screwed up than people who went through the Christian version. All of them are now out and having a great time and are grateful that they made friends in that camp. Many of them are upset that they were trying to change for so long and ended up virgins so late in life. Some of them sued the conversion therapy camp and won. One person said that he's grateful to the camp because it was a halfway point for him. If his choice was going from totally religious to 100% gay in a big city lifestyle, he would have stayed in the closet. Personally, I still think these camps are terrible and need to be shut down, but it was interesting hearing his perspective. My best friend's brother was forced to go through conversion therapy by the Mormon church. He killed himself less than a year later. That's just awful. Didn't one of the big ones called I think Exodus International shut down citing a 99% failure rate? And hadn't it been plagued with scandal after scandal as its spokesman and leadership committee kept getting caught by the media in gay bars? Yeah, two of the main leaders fell in love with each other and ran off together. I had a friend who was FTM trans. He said his mom initially reacted with skepticism, expecting it to be a rebellious phase, or a tomboy phase blown out of proportion. When it didn't pass, she sent him to a church health camp that was basically covering any church problems but was also like, new. So they were trying very hard to comply with all laws and regulations and get on parents' good sides. So what essentially happened was the first week they made him read Bible verses and attend meetings. Then he said no and they said, yes actually, and he said make me, and they said we can't legally touch you or force you to do anything that your mom might call the police over. So he spent the remaining week sitting alone because he refused to participate, and his mom brought him home early. She then conceded maybe this wasn't the right path to take. They had a fine relationship now. She would take him to his hormone appointments and stuff. It worked too. He was hella cute. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.